Hello everyone, a little bit of a different video for you today, completely unscripted. Just before I start, I'm really sorry, it's really loud for some reason outside my window today, so there'll be some background noise throughout the video. But anyway, the reason why we're here today is to introduce a new member to the Armory Deck family, the one and only -IO, and boy oh boy, I am excited about this one. So a huge thank you to LSS for providing me with this deck, and we can have a look at it together today. I will look at its inclusions and some of the synergies also. And then I'm going to offer some suggestions for either sideboard options and or upgrades. This will be a longer video, so I will probably add some timestamps so you can skip certain sections. If you are a newer player, well, welcome. I will add a link to the description if you want to learn how to play this hero. All right, I'm going to switch to my overhead camera and let's have a look at the deck together. All right, we're all set up. The deck has been open. I have sleeved it up. But first, let's look at this gorgeous playmat that LSS gave to me. I'm so happy to own this one. It's beautiful. So this is showcasing Sam Yang's beautiful art for Fast and Furious. So this is a new Majestic card that we'll be looking at very shortly. It's just gorgeous. But unfortunately, I've been having some focusing issues with my overhead camera, and it focuses a lot on her face. So while I'm showing the cards, I might have to move it to one side. But again, this is gorgeous. I will be using this mat. It's just absolutely beautiful. Okay. All right, she's all sleeved up and ready to go. Let's have a look at -IO. You may look at the top card of your deck at any time. Once per turn, you may play a mechanologist item with cost 0 or 1 from the top of your deck, as though it were an instant. It costs an additional resource to play. Now, that is a crazy hero power, if you ask me. Of course, you will notice that her life total is a bit lower than most heroes of Wraith. She starts at 36 life. Typically, you'll see it at 40, but she makes up with this crazy hero power. I was going to say pistol. A pistol is not a gun. The symbiosis shot, which is a gun. So this is a dash specialization in its -IO. I believe her signature weapon as well. So you'll notice there's no cost associated to this weapon, and it's not a once per turn weapon as well, same as Dash Inventor Extraordinaire. She has her pistol that is also not limited to once per turn, but you do need an action point to shoot this multiple times. I put that in a little penny sleeve here, but so we have a QR code, and I believe it is the deck list and how to play the hero. But what I find really great, look at these! We got steam canners as well. So these are, you can bend these and look at these. I love it. So you can add little steam canners on there, and you have 2 sheets. And what's great on the other side, you have a block 1 as well. Yeah. This is fun. I like it. All right, I'm going to put these on one side. Next, let's have a look at the new equipment suite. All right, I have to stop for a second because there was crazy noises outside. All right, so let's have a look at the armor suite. So heavy industry surveillance, heavy industry ram stop, heavy industry power plant, and heavy industry gear shift. Wow. That was a mouthful for me. So I'm French, for those that don't know, I'm French Canadian, and that was a mouthful to say this. So let's start with the first one, the headpiece, which is let's practice together. Heavy industry surveillance. So when this defends, you may banish the top card of your deck. If it's a mechanologist card, it gets +1 armor until the end of the turn, and it has temper 1. Now, Dash, typically, I won't say all the time because everyone can play whatever they want and how they want to build their deck, but typically she will play a pure mechanologist deck. So meaning the card you will banish will be a mechanologist card. Now, what's really fun with this one is that you can peek at the top of your deck at all times. So if that's a card that you don't necessarily want there, you could potentially shift it to the banish zone. So block with it, banish, and all of a sudden this blocks for 2. This will not get destroyed because it will be blocking for 2 instead of just 1. So we'll gain a -1 counter on it, and that's where these little great little tokens can come in, which is really great. Okay, next one, we have the Ram Stop, Heavy Industry Ram Stop. This one says, when this defends, you may pay 1 resource. If you do, it gets +1 armor until the end of the turn. It has temper 1 as well. So Dash doesn't like to play cards from hand on your opponent's turn, so it's losing a whole entire card to block. But if you can pair it with her instant ability, this can be quite great actually. Now, this one I find very interesting. So Heavy Industry Power Plant, so this is action for 1 resource. Destroy this. Whenever you boost this turn, gain 1 resource. Go again. And this has an unconditional temper 2. So you will be able to block once, get a -1, and then block again if you're not using the action. But golly, oh gosh, you should be using this action if you are playing this hero. This can enable absolutely crazy 5-card hands. So if you have an arsenal and let's say that you have a blue in hand, it's just not cutting it and you need to have more damage coming, I highly suggest playing this one. So for 1 cost, you will pitch, and then if you have a few 0 cost attacks, you can boost, and then all of a sudden you're gaining a resource. So you're netting a resource each time you boost. So this can be quite explosive. So me personally, I know we're not going to go through right away like the upgrades and everything, but this, if I am upgrading this deck, this will definitely be, I think, in my sideboard for these pesky matchups that I just cannot go over the top. Next, the best one in my opinion. You can debate all you want, but this is insanely good. So Heavy Industry Gear Shift says, action, destroy this, banish the top 2 cards of your deck, gain 1 action point for each mechanologist card banished this way. And this one has Battle Worn. So yes, it blocks 1 only, but it doesn't destroy once you block with this. So it will stick around. Okay, so as we mentioned before, the Symbiosis Shot is not limited to once per turn, but it doesn't have go again. So this can enable, so banishing the top cards, which will be mechanologist cards. We already went through this. This will enable, if you have esteem counters on this, will enable to shoot multiple times with this one. Let's look at the deck. We'll start really quickly with the items. We have 3 red backup protocol reds, and we have 3 backup protocol blue. So really quickly, these are not new. These were from Bright Light. So they're a 0 cost card item, and it has the mechanic crank. This comes with a steam counter. Some of them will come with more. If you crank this item, you remove 1 steam counter off of it, and you will gain an action point. Now, what's really great here is that if you are playing it from your hand, you can play it, crank, and continue with your turn. Because, again, items do not have go again. So when you're playing them, you do not have an action point. So both of them has the same thing. It will start with 1 steam counter on it. At instant speed, you can pay 2 resources, destroy this, and return a red one for the red one, and a blue for the blue one. Attack action card from your graveyard to your hand. Now, the red one is really great because it can enable a bigger turn. So if you're stuck with a bunch of blues in your hand, that doesn't really do much. And if you have a backup protocol in play, you can destroy this at instant speed without even breaking your chain link, bringing back a red card and attacking with it, which is really awesome. Or if you don't have an arsenal target, this can be great. You can, if you have two floating resources, you can break this, get a powerful card back, and set it in your arsenal. So there's a few ways to do this. Now, blue, you might say, why the heck would I need a blue one? This is actually really great. So let's say you need a little bit more resources to do your turn. This, what it enables, it will net you one extra resource. So let's say you have this on the board, you pitch a blue, this costs 2, you will have 1 floating resource. You will get another blue attack action card from your graveyard, and all of a sudden, oh, I have a blue and I have a resource here. So all of a sudden you're having 4 resources, because typically you will not get that attack action card from graveyard blue to play it. There's one specific one that I will cover a bit later that could be a target, but it's not included in this deck. But this, in my opinion, is how this item should be played. Next, we have the boom grenade. So, I mean, I don't think it needs any introduction. So for this deck, we have 3 reds and 3 yellows, no blues included. So this again has a crank. It comes with a steam counter, and it gets destroyed at the beginning of the turn if it has no steam counter on it. So the red one, when a mechanologist attack action card you control hits a hero, destroy this and it will deal 4 damage to them. The yellow one is 3 and the blue one will be 2. What's really great here is that if they don't block one of your attacks, well, we'll go boom and deal 4 additional damage. So this is really great, especially if you can set up a really big 5-card hand. That would be amazing. So I really love breakpoint cards. So if you're wondering if you're again a bit newer, a breakpoint is typically your 4s. So if you can attack for 4 multiple times, this will pressure them to either use 2 cards from hand, because typically a card will block for either 2 or 3 most of the time. So they'll either have to fully block with 2 cards or block with 1 card and an equipment as well. So it's forcing that really awkward blocking situation with the boom grenades. But what's really great, these can be played on top of your deck. Let's say you attack with a one attack power card, and all of a sudden, oh, well, I'll take the 1. Well, here you go. Take 5 now instead of 1, which is really great. We have the not dissolution. There's so many of these types of names. Dissolving shield. So this one I really, really like. You will notice really quickly, Dash doesn't like to block with cards from hand. You need sometimes a little bit of buffer to help to keep that life total higher. So Dissolving Shield has crank. The red one will come with 3 steam counters. And at the start of your turn, destroy this unless you remove a steam counter from it. That doesn't change. So at instant speed, remove a steam counter from this. Prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to you this turn. If this has no steam counter, destroy it. Now, it is important to note that if you are attacked, you can activate this any number of times. If they're attacking for 3 and you have 3 steam counters, you can activate the instant 3 times to prevent the 3 damage. It's not just once per turn. So next we have a oldie, a 1 of Convection Amplifier. That is all the way back to Arcane Rising. So this is not a crank item. It says this enters the arena with 2 steam counters. When this has no steam counters, destroy it. It has an action. Remove a steam counter from this. The next attack action card you play this turn gets dominate. Go again. So what is different with this one? It starts with 2 steam counters on it, and you decide when these steam counters come off of this. So this can stay for however you want along, and when you have the correct card and you want to finish a final blow with a big attack, you can't can use the action here, remove a steam counter, and that action, that attack action that's coming will gain dominate. Now, I do want to be mindful. This is not an instant. This is an action. So if the card you are playing cares about the combat chain, this will break the combat chain if you activate this. So just be very mindful of that. Next, one that is not typically seen as much, but I do like it, is the steam canister. So from Bright Lights, it is a blue item, not a crank item, but it says instant. Put this at the bottom of its owner's deck. Put a steam counter on an item you control with crank. So this is really fun because it puts back a blue in your deck at instant speed, and whatever crank item you have on the board that you wish to keep a little bit longer, then you can add a steam counter on it. And the one we're going to be talking about is a prime target for the steam canister, and it is the new card Cerebellum Processor. And can I just say, the foil is amazing. These Armory decks come with one foil of each of the new cards. So the Fast and Furious will have a rainbow foil, and the Cerebellum Processor will have one. And all of these equipment, beautiful equipment, they all come in foil as well, and they actually look so good. All right, let's go back. This is just crazy item. Okay, it is a blue pitch zero cost item that says crank. This enters the arena with 2 steam counters. At the start of your turn, destroy this unless you remove a steam counter from it. Once per turn action, for 0 cost, draw a card. Now you must say, well, why is this crazy? Yes, it draws you a card, but Jackie, it doesn't have go again. But you've seen already, there's a few things that can gain you action point. Wink, wink. Heavy industry gear shift. So this will gain you some additional action point, but also keep in mind the Cerebellum itself has crank, so you can crank this item here and give it go again. But the problem is that if you crank this and you draw your card, that doesn't have go again. But if you play this from the top of your deck at instant speed, so pay a resource, play it at instant, and crank, now you're netting an extra action point. So you could potentially here draw a card and continue your turn. But there's multiple ways that you can gain additional action points to be able to draw a card. Or alternatively, there's nothing wrong on at the end of your turn, if you have the action point, draw the card and arsenal the card as well to enable a bigger turn as well. There's nothing wrong with that. But paired with other cards, this can be absolutely crazy. This opened up a bunch of new ways to play the deck, and I'm very excited to play this card. All right, so these were our items. Let's quickly look at our attack actions. We have Rainbow 0 to 60. We have, I believe, Rainbow of Zipper Hit, and we have 3 red. I think it's not center. Hang on, let me put that down a little bit. And we have 3 red throttles. Now, I'm not going to go in massive detail about these. These have been around for quite some time. They are a simple boost card that doesn't do anything else. They block for 3, good on rate cards, and that is why that they are always played. So if I show all the red cards here, the 0 cost, the 0 comes for 4, the Zipper Hit is a 1 for 5, and the throttle here is a 2 for 6, which is fantastic. So nothing really to add here. They are just amazing cards. Next, we have Data Link, red and blue, and I will add here also the Dive Through Data, because that is the older sister of Data Link. It does the same exact thing, but 1 for 4 instead. So what Data Link does is boost when this hits opt 1. Now you might say, well, Jackie, why the heck do I need to opt? I already can peek on the top of my deck constantly. Well, yes, but when you're peeking on top of your deck, it doesn't make you put the card at the bottom if you don't like it. But opt can, because let's say you play Dot a Link, it hits, and the top card of your deck, you really do not want to boost away, and you have another attack coming up, you could tuck it at the bottom of your deck and then continue with your turn. Then we have Expedite Blue. Now this looks very innocuous and there's like nothing very special about this one, but I mean, it does a little bit of everything. First of all, it is a block 3, it is blue, so very functional. You can pitch it, you can block with it. If you have to play it, well, it asks a question to your opponent. It says, when this hits, you may put an item with cost 0 or 1 from your hand into the arena. So now, let's say that you are holding, wink wink, a cerebellum processor. You could, if that hits, put this in the arena at instant speed even, so you're not even losing your action point, but you could crank it as well, gaining an additional action point. So it opens up some interesting lines. It's a fun little card and I like the inclusion. Next we have, nope, not that one, 2 maximum velocities. Now this is great. It does have a bit of hurdles to cross to get that through, but it says play this only if you boosted 3 or more times this turn. It is a 2 cost, 10 damage, 3 block. So if you can set up big turns, this can be amazing, especially if this is in your arsenal and you have full attacks in your hand plus a boom grenade or 2 as well. That is quite powerful, and this is a perfect example of when you could crack this one. So this can enable to play maximum velocity a bit easier. Really quick note on this one. So maximum velocity doesn't care about the chain link, so you only have to have boosted 3 times in the turn. So if at any point you need to break the chain, that is fine. Perfect example of when you could play the convection amplifier. You could break the chain, remove a steam counter off of this, and all of a sudden your maximum velocity is coming for 10 dominate, which is pretty awesome. I love it. Last but not least, we have new card with the fantastic art we just saw with our beautiful foil in the middle. God, I love these so much. Fast and Furious. This card is Chef Kiss. I love it so much. So Fast and Furious is a 0 cost, 3 block, 3 attack for now. That says boost. If you've cranked this turn, this gets +1 attack power. So let's say I have a backup protocol in my hand and I wish to play it and I crank it and all of a sudden I gain my action point and then I play the Fast and Furious. I've cranked this just then. So this is coming for 4. So 0 for 4 again, which is amazing. And honestly, I don't think you will ever play this for 3 damage. You will always want to have cranked an item before you play this one. But additionally, this has another function as well, which is crazy. All right, so when this is banished from boosting, put a steam counter on an item you control with crank. If this ends up being boosted away, you can add a steam counter on an item of your choosing that obviously has crank. So that is the deck. Now, keep in mind, this deck is a 60 card deck. When you play Classic Constructed, you have access to a pool of 80 cards, which you are required to have a minimum of 60 cards to play the deck. You cannot play with less than 60. But here you have room to add additional cards if you wish to. So this portion of the video, we will be looking at potential cards that you could either add to this Armory deck, because believe me, I really think this deck by itself as is really great. But if you do want to add some cards to this, then let's have a look at a few. Okay, let's have a look at some possible equipment we could add to this. So the first four I'm going to talk about, some of them will really not need much introduction, especially the first two that have been played for quite a bit. I personally played with these for a number of years. The first one is the Tekla Foundry Heart. It's a powerhouse. It's quite amazing. In case you don't know what it does, once per turn action, for 1 resource, banish the top 2 cards of your deck, gain 1 resource for each mechanologist card banished this way, activate this ability only if you have boosted this turn, go again, and it's a battle worn too. So this will not get destroyed if you block with it twice. So it's great. The once per turn action is really good, but do note that if you're using this quite aggressively throughout a game, you want to be closing that game quite quickly because you're banishing 2 cards each time you're using this. And already when you're attacking, you're banishing cards by boosting. So if you are expecting to be playing against a Guardian, or I would say probably right now Enigma, I would probably play the other one. So these two again, I would probably, this is a perfect example of Sideboard. Play this one if you think the matchup is going to go quickly. And this one I would play if you're playing, if you really want to set up these big turns and you are required just to push a little bit on top. So this is a good example of Sideboard. Next one, same here. This has been played in probably every mechanologist for a few years now, but with the introduction of the heavy industry gear shift, this is shifting to be a sideboard card more than anything. Personally, I think I would be playing the heavy industry gear shift in every matchup, but Achilles Accelerator has built an Arcane Barrier one, so I would be bringing this one if I played against Rune Blades, Illusionist, some ones you don't really want to pitch into. But if you want to pitch in for Arcane Barrier, I would suggest playing. Other cards here, we have Adaptive Plating. That one actually is quite good in -IO. It's been played quite heavily. And what's really fun about Adaptive Plating is that it's modular. This can be placed in any equipment slot. The action here at 0 cost, equipped to another equipment zone, it doesn't really have a use case at the present moment. You wouldn't really play it for that. The Galvanize is where this shines. So let's say I have a backup protocol on the field. It doesn't have a steam counter anymore, and I have the Adaptive Plating here. My opponent is attacking me for a good amount that I want to block. Now, on its own, it blocks for 1 and it has Blade Break. But backup protocol here, if I have no way of activating the instant ability before my beginning of my next turn, it doesn't have a steam counter, so it will get destroyed. I can opt to destroy this item by galvanizing it. And all of a sudden, the Adaptive Plating will block for 3, which is quite large actually. So it's giving second life on an item that just didn't do anything. All right, last equipment, Visiotronic Model I. Honestly, most people don't even know what the action is because no one really uses that action. It will be mainly for the Arcane Barrier 2. So you only really equip this if you are playing against a wizard. And not even all wizards will need this. Now let's look at some generic. Now, I don't really need to explain too much about these. Most of you know what they do. Now you must be wondering why Balance of Justice with the big book banning. This is probably not the best card to play. Well, you know what? This is pretty good in the mirror. You will notice with Cerebellum Processor, you might be drawing multiple cards in one turn. And obviously, Brutes still have access to Blood Rush Bellows. So if you're expecting locally that you're going to get a lot of Brutes and a mirror match with -IO, I would probably fit that in your sideboard. Last but not least, I mean, Crown of Providence is just a staple. let's have a look at, let's go with attack actions. So attack actions that could be either swapped or added. Let's have a look at some rare, commons and rares. Some of them I'm just going to go through really fast. So we have our 0 cost here, and we have our 1 cost attacks here. So Expedite, we already went through this one. It's in the Armory deck in blue. And Dumpster Dive, not Dumpster Dive, Met-X is the big brother of this card, which is the 1 for 4. Is a possible substitution if you want to substitute the data link, if you wish. I don't think you need to, but is a possibility. The other 2 here are the same card again. This is just the big brother of the card. So Sprocket Rocket says, boost if an item or equipment was banished from boosting, this gets +1 attack power. Again, yes, you might say, hey, it's very likely to go to 4. Well, I don't necessarily agree. A lot of the items that you will find on top of your deck, you might want to play. So it will not always hit exactly when you want it to. Now, T-Bone, I'm not sure if it's the best card for Dash.io for the simple fact I'm not a big fan of the 3 attack at the moment. With the boom grenades, you really want to force that awkward breakpoint of 4. Again, it's an option, but not one of my favorites. Now, the last 3 are contenders. 2 of them, absolutely. 1, I'm still on the fence. Soup Up, you will notice that is a little different. Soup Up is a 0 cost 4. Yes, great. It ticks some boxes, but it doesn't have boost. If an item you control has been destroyed this turn, this gains go again. So yes, if a boom grenade exploded. Other things though, if an item dies at the beginning of the turn because it had no more steam counters, yes, this will apply. So the go again can be achieved quite easily most of the time. It has another other thing here. Yes, it blocks for 2, but Galvanize, you may destroy an item you control. If you do, this gets +2. So exactly like your adaptive plating. So all of a sudden this blocks for 4, which is really good. So again, I'm just not sure. There's just so many cards you could add, but this, if you're thinking of adding a card, try it out and let me know in the comments how you thought that one went. Now, the last 2 here, for me personally, these are shoo-in. I am putting these both in my deck, one a bit more than the other. We talked about awkward breakpoints. That covers that. There are 1 for 4s, but they just disrupt equipment. So if people want to block that pesky 4 here on both of these, it will demand them to block with 2 cards from hand to avoid that boom grenade to go off, because this one will be pumped by the number of equipment they're blocking with. And this one, it just says cannot be blocked by equipment. So this is forcing them to block with multiple cards, which are fantastic. Other cards here. Now again, some of them are good, but are not required. And starting with the first one, Heist. Now, you might say, what are you talking about? Heist is amazing and should always be played in Dash.io. Well, you know what? I've tested with this card and I don't know if I like it as much as I liked it before. So it costs 2. It attacks for 5. The issue is that sometimes the text on the card is not really relevant. Now what happens here? Yes, you're banishing cards, you're likely to banish items. I played quite a bit and very often I find myself playing the item on top of my deck versus banishing it away. So you might play this and have no cards in your banish zone. Also, yes, this can be any banish zone, but not many heroes are banishing items. So in the mirror, it would be a card that you could play. So right now, it used to be in my main board, but I actually cut 1 and I have 2 in my sideboard instead. If you're able to give me a very good argument to why I should move these back in the main board, well, let me know. All right, the next ones we have Pulse Wave Harpoon, which, I mean, it's amazing. It's a break point. It is a 1 for 4. And again, if you boost multiple times a turn, this is disrupting your opponent. So again, let's say that I played, very unlikely that I played 3 0 to 60s, but let's say I play 2 0 to 60s, boost this one, and I boost the Pulse Wave Harpoon. Now, there's a lot of text on this. I'm not going to read it. But what it basically says is that I boosted 3 times. Your opponent has to show 3 cards from hand. And you may choose a card to block this, but note that it has to be an action card. If they're showing you defense reaction, attack reactions, or an instant, you cannot choose these. So you may choose one. It has to be block 3 or less because you boosted 3 times, and you may put it to block this card. Next, we have Twin Drive. All right, so now this one only says boost. Now, yes, it looks like it has a lot of text on it, but what it means is that you can boost twice. You don't have to boost twice. Playing this card, you have to announce if you're boosting 0 time, 1 time, or 2 times. What this enables, it's a perfect example of Pulse Wave Harpoon. So let's say I played my 0 to 60 boost, and then I Twin Drive, boost, and then play Pulse Wave Harpoon and boost, and all of a sudden, hey, I've boosted 4 times, so I get to see the whole entire hand. Very good card. But ones you definitely want to add to your deck is the beautiful Teklo Core. So this enters the arena with 2 steam counters. When this has none, destroy it at the beginning of your action phase. Remove a steam counter from this and gain 2 resources. So you can probably have a full pitchless turn sometimes with this card, which is fantastic. Other ones will be your role players. So these will be sideboard cards, and at the moment I have them in my sideboard. So the first one, we have the Signal Jammer. It is a blue 0 cost item, doesn't have crank. Signal Jammer comes in with 1 steam counter. Each hero can play more than 1 non-attack action card each turn. What heroes like to play multiple attack actions? So this card can really stop some opponents on their track. I really like this one for Kano and Azalea especially. All right, next one. This is your mirror match item that you will want to play, which is called the TikTok clock. So it is a crank. It comes in with a steam counter. But this one has a little difference in the text when it talks about this enters the arena with a steam counter. At the start of your turn, destroy this, and it deals 1 damage to you unless you remove a steam counter from it. So when a Mechanologist attack action card you control hits a hero, destroy this. So destroy the TikTok clock and up to 2 other items in the arena. Then deal X damage to them, where X is the number of items destroyed this way. So this destroy itself, if there's 2 other items that they control you want to break, then this will deal a total of 3 damage to them. Now, other cards you could potentially add are 2 cost items. Now you might say, well, this really doesn't synergize very well with your hero. Yeah, but some of them are quite powerful. Now the first one that really doesn't need any introduction is the Teklo Pounder. It's a 2 cost blue. It comes in with 3 steam counters, and the effect is whenever you boost the first time, it will gain +2 attack power. Next one, we have the Dissolution Sphere. Now, a lot of you haven't really seen this one. Well, I've been playing this one for quite a bit, and it says, at the beginning of your action phase, destroy Dissolution Sphere unless you remove a steam counter from it. Whenever your hero is dealt exactly 1 damage, prevent it. So all these rune chant that are coming for 1, it will prevent that damage. This is really great. The last one, it's made appearance in my personal sideboard on and off. It can be really, really powerful, but the problem I'm finding with this one is that I don't really want the game to go that long. You need to find it pretty early for it to have equity. So the plasma mainline enters the arena with 5 steam counters on it. When it has no steam counter, destroy it. When a mechanologist item with cost 2 or less enters the arena under your control, you may move a steam counter from plasma mainline to that item. Plasma mainline is great, okay? Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if it's fast enough in this deck to be played. Again, test it out, have a go, and let me know. I am not entirely sure. Now you're wondering, like I said, it doesn't really synergize really well with your hero, the 2-cost cards. So how can you get them in the arena? Well, you can use BIOS update. So this is an action card that says the next attack action card you boost this turn, it gets +3 attack power, which is already really great. But the other bit of text at the bottom says the next time a mechanologist item with cost 2 or less is banished to pay a boost cost this turn, put it into the arena. So let's say, you could potentially play this, arsenal it, and wait till you see this beautiful tackle pounder on top of your deck that is ready to be boosted away. You could play this, play your 0 to 60, boost, and all of a sudden this is coming at no cost without losing your action point. So another way, and I really suggest adding these to your deck, is the other dash specialization card, which is Spark of Genius. Probably, in my opinion, one of the best cards in the whole entire game. And it's not because I'm biased to Dash. I just think this card just does so much. So this is a yellow cost action card, and it has XX. Search your deck for a mechanologist item card with cost X. Put it into the arena, shuffle your deck. If you boosted this, draw a card. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening on this card. So let's say you have a Spark of Genius and you want to get a Teclo Pounder. You will have to pay XX, which is the cost of this item, which is 2. So you will have to pitch a whole entire 4 resources to get this item. Alternatively, if you want to get, let's say, backup protocol, this costs 0, so the cost of X is 0. So this one, you don't have to pay any resources. If the item costs 1, you will have to pay 2 resources because the cost is XX. Now, keep in mind, this doesn't have go again. So if you search for an item that doesn't have crank, because yes, you could search this, crank it, and gain your action point back and continue. This will not have go again. So, but there's nothing wrong on finishing your turn, getting your card. If you boosted this turn, you draw a card, and that card can be placed in your arsenal as well. So there's just so many things you could do here. Now, the next card I'm going to talk about, I just want to I will show which card I'm talking about, High Octane. Now, obviously, this, at the moment, you should be putting that in your deck. But I want to be very clear with everyone. I don't think this card will be legal past November 2024 after World's Championship. This has been mentioned in a video with James White as well, that has been a potential target for, at the same time that it was the book bannings, because it draws a card. So, and not only that, it's what it does. So whenever you boost a card this turn, you gain an action point. So there you go. You want multiple action points in one turn. Every single time you're boosting, you are gaining an action point. And not only that, this draws you a card. So it's quite a bit. So paired with Cerebellum Processor, this can get pretty out of hand. So right now, if you can pick up cheap copies, go right ahead. I think you should really play this. This makes the deck go completely crazy, but just be mindful that I think this card is not going to survive for another month here. Last two cards. Yes, we're at the end of this video. This was a very, very long video. We're going to talk about Hyper Scrapper. We haven't seen that one a lot, so I said I wouldn't be over explaining every card, but I have been explaining a lot of cards. But this one I will be explaining. So Hyper Scrapper is a blue card, a blue pitch. X is the cost. It's a 2 attack and a 3 block. It doesn't have boost. But the function of this one is, as an additional cost to play this, banish X item from your graveyard. When this attacks, it gets plus X attack power. The rest of the attacks, not as relevant. If 3 or more hyperdrivers were banished to play this, gain 6 resources, and this gets go again. We're not playing the item hyperdriver, so it's not super relevant. It's really the rest of the text that can be quite relevant here. You will be playing a lot of items, meaning you will get a lot of items in your graveyard. So if you're having difficulty pushing just that bit more of damage at the end of a game, this is a great example. So let's say you're seeing this one early, you're happy to pitch it away to pay for a cost, and you just wait till it comes back and you get more items in your graveyard, and then you can play this out. Banish, let's say 5 items, and all of a sudden, boom, this is coming for 7 attack power. But what's really good when you're thinking about the Armory deck, if we remember again, let's get it, Convection Amplifier. This can give the Hyper Scrapper dominate. So let's say I have 8 items that can be banished from my graveyard. Now your Hyper Scrapper, meaning this is coming in for 10. So this again, other thing you can do with your Hyper Scrapper as well is fun little play here. Let's say you have your Backup Protocol blue, and you played this one early on just for like maybe 6. So you had 3 items, and you had 4 items, and you played it, and it's there, and you have a bunch of items now. You could play this, so activate the instant ability, break this, all of a sudden this is in the graveyard, you get your Hyper Scrapper back, and then play it again and banish all these other items. So there's a fun few ways. So this I really like. At first I had it in the sideboard, but right now, honestly, I don't mind having it in my main board as well. I love it. So have a play with it, try it. Okay, last card. I mean, yep. The elephant in the room. System reset. Okay. So, look, it's a card. You can definitely play this card, but I'll be honest with you, I tested this card. It's either can be very good or really annoying to draw. So it's a yellow. It blocks for 3. Its cost is X. It says banish X mechanized items you control with cost 0 or 1, then return them to the arena under their owner's control. So, for example, why not? Let's get the main target of this card. Let's say we have 3 cerebellum processors on the board, which is, it can happen, but that means you will have to have played them pretty close back together. You could pitch a blue, because there's 3 here, flicker these, reset them basically. So reset, come back, they gain their steam counter back, and you could potentially here crank all of them, gaining 3 action points, and then start drawing cards and going bananas. Yes, you can do that. This is definitely something you can do, but I am telling you right now, when you're drawing this, sometimes you will not have the items you want to flicker with this, and then all of a sudden, this doesn't boost. This doesn't really do anything right now. I'll just block with it, or I'll just pitch it. So a deck that is high variance, adding that extra bit of variance to me is not something I really want to do. Now, but I do want to mention that if High Octane is getting banned, this is a possible card to be added in. So it's sitting in my maybe board. Look, if you are a believer of this card, like the meme, insert meme, change my mind, sound in the comments why you think I should be playing that card. I did test this card, and I'm just not completely sold. Yes, I won some games with it, but I also found it very clunky and not really great in other matchups. So that's it. All right, you should have everything you need to get yourself started. I also added my deck list in the description if you wish to try it out. Also, if you like the format of this video, please let me know in the comments. Bye for now.